The Laughing on the Line. April 12, 1943. 6,500 feet over the Huon Gulf, New Guinea. The air is wet and heavy, pressing against the skin of the Douglas A-20 as if the jungle itself has climbed into the sky. Rain squalls smear the horizon into gray curtains. Inside the cockpit, First Lieutenant Robert Hale tastes oil and metal with every breath. The engines beat a steady hammer through the fuselage. Below, green water breaks against reefs that look close enough to touch. A crack of gunfire flashes from the shoreline. Tracer rounds rise like red insects, slow at first, then frighteningly fast. Hale tightens his grip on the controls. He has flown this route 8 times in the last 3 weeks. Each time, someone does not come back. Each time, the men on the ground swear the Japanese gunners are getting better. A burst slams into the belly of the aircraft. The impact is a deep metallic punch, not the tearing scream Hale expects. The plane shudders, but it does not bleed. Behind him, Staff Sergeant Eddie Morales, the gunner, waits for the scream. He has heard it before. Aluminum ripping open. Wind roaring through a new hole. Blood spraying where a man had been a second earlier. It does not come. Instead, there is only a dull ringing thud, like a sledgehammer striking a barn door. Morales blinks and pats his chest. Then he laughs, sharp and surprised. Back at Dobadura airstrip 3 days earlier, the laughter had been different. The maintenance line had been a swamp of mud and half-sunken crates. Rain hammered the tin roofs of the huts and turned the ground into a sucking mess that pulled at boots. Aircraft sat wing to wing, patched with fabric, paint, and hope. At the far end of the line, Master Sergeant William Red Carter crouched beside an A-20 with a torch clenched in his teeth. Sparks fell around him as he welded slabs of scrap steel into place along the lower fuselage and cockpit floor. The metal came from wrecked trucks, bomb racks, and a bulldozer blade no one could remember arriving. Captain Harold Finch stood watching, arms crossed, boots clean. "You cannot be serious," Finch said. "That is not approved armor. It is not balanced. It is not tested." Carter did not look up. His hands were steady, confident. He had been fixing aircraft since before Finch learned to salute. "Sir," Carter said through the torch, "neither are the bullets." A small crowd gathered. Pilots with coffee cups. Crew chiefs wiping grease from their hands. Someone snorted. "That thing will slow her down," a lieutenant said. "You trying to turn her into a tank?" Another voice chimed in. "Unsafe. If that breaks loose, it will kill the crew." Carter shut off the torch and finally stood. He was thick through the shoulders, his face lined by sun and years. He pointed at a chalkboard nailed to a post nearby. Names were written there, some crossed out. "That armor you keep ordering takes 6 weeks to get here," he said. "These boys are flying tomorrow." Finch shook his head. "I will not have backyard welding turning my squadron into scrap." Yet the planes kept coming back with holes in the same places. Belly, cockpit floor. The spots the engineers insisted were low probability. The spots the gunners could not see until it was too late. Carter had started quietly. One aircraft, then another. Thin plates, bolted and welded where experience said men died. Now Hale felt one of those plates do its work. Another burst hit. Again the solid thump. No tearing. No wind. The aircraft held together as if insulted rather than wounded. "Jesus," Morales said. It stopped it. Hale banked hard, pushing the nose toward cloud cover. Sweat ran down his spine. His mind replayed Finch's words. "Unprofessional. Unsafe." The radio crackled. "Blue 2, you still with us?" Hale pressed the transmit button. "Still flying." There was a pause. Then disbelief. "We saw you take that hit." Hale glanced down at the floor beneath his boots. The steel plate was hidden under paint and dirt, but he knew it was there. He could feel it, a weight that suddenly felt like a promise. Back at Dobadura, Captain Finch would soon hear the report. Not a theory, not a test. A fact written in oil and sweat and survival. And on the maintenance line, Master Sergeant Carter would light another torch, sparks dancing in the rain, while laughter slowly turned quiet. Reports written in holes and silence. April 13th, 1943. Dobadura Airstrip, New Guinea. The A-20 rolls to a stop in a cloud of mud and steam. Hale cuts the throttles, and the engines wind down, ticking like cooling iron. Ground crew rush in, eyes scanning the aircraft the way men check a wounded friend for blood. One of them crouches beneath the fuselage. "Sir," he calls out, voice tight. "You better come look at this." Hale climbs down the ladder and steps into ankle-deep mud. The rain has eased, but the air still hangs heavy. He ducks under the belly of the plane. There, embedded in a dented slab of steel, sits a deformed Japanese round. Flattened. Dead. It did not go through. Word moves fast on an airstrip. Faster than paperwork. By noon, 3 crews are standing under Carter's shelter, pointing at holes and plates, touching the welds like relics. Captain Finch arrives with 2 officers from operations. His expression is controlled, but his eyes linger on the evidence longer than he intends. "This aircraft took fire from shore batteries," Hale says, careful with his tone. "Same approach as last week. Same altitude." Finch nods. And my gunner is alive." Silence settles. Not awkward. Heavy. Another pilot steps forward. Lieutenant Jack Morrison, his face still pale from the flight. "Mine too, sir. Belly hit. Plate stopped it." Finch exhales slowly. "How many aircraft?" "For so far," someone says. "All with Carter's steel." The captain turns toward the maintenance area. Carter is there already, wiping his hands on a rag, saying nothing. By evening, the laughter is gone. The next morning, April 14th, the squadron flies again. This time, 8 aircraft carry the field armor. For do not. There is no ceremony, no official order. Just quiet choices made by men who intend to come back. The mission is a low-level strike on a coastal supply dump. Japanese anti-aircraft guns are waiting, barrels already trained on the approach vector. The sky fills with black puffs and climbing tracers. One unarmored aircraft takes a hit just aft of the cockpit. The round punches through aluminum, through wiring, through a man. It rolls inverted and disappears into the jungle without a word on the radio. Hale sees it happen. He also feels the familiar hammering under his feet. 2 impacts. 3. He flies on. When the surviving aircraft land, the difference is impossible to ignore. The armored planes look battered but whole. The others are missing. Morales sits on a crate and stares at the ground, shaking. "Same place," he mutters. "Same damn place every time." Combat reports go up the chain. At first, they are cautious. Phrases like probable contribution and requires further study. But the numbers keep stacking up. Loss rates drop. Not a little. Dramatically. By April 20th, intelligence officers notice a pattern. Aircraft with field-installed armor are surviving hits that previously guaranteed a casualty. In some cases, 2 or 3 impacts in the same zone. Engineers back in Brisbane scoff. The armor is uneven. The metallurgy unknown. The added weight uncalculated. But the men flying do not care about calculations written weeks away. They care about the sound a bullet makes when it stops. Carter works day and night. His hands blister. His torch burns through 3 tips. Scrap runs low. He sends men scavenging wrecks at the edge of the strip, dragging twisted steel out of the jungle. Finch watches from a distance. He does not interfere anymore. On April 26th, a colonel from 5th Air Force arrives unannounced. He is immaculate, clipboard under his arm. He listens to the briefing in silence. Then he walks the line. He runs his fingers along the welds. He peers at the embedded rounds. He studies the chalkboard with fewer names crossed out. "Who authorized this?" he asks. No one answers. Finally, Finch steps forward. "I allowed it to continue." The colonel looks at him. Then at Carter. "Did you design it?" Carter shrugs. "No, sir. Bullets did." Another mission. Another day. Another set of aircraft return with holes that did not become graves. By the end of the month, unofficial orders circulate. If you want the armor, talk to Carter. If you do not, fly at your own risk. The squadron is no longer laughing. It is listening, watching, counting the men still alive at mess each night. And somewhere above the jungle, Japanese gunners are firing the same guns, at the same angles, unaware that something crude and unapproved has quietly shifted the balance. The day the pattern became proof. May 3rd, 1943. 300 feet over the coastline near Salamaua, New Guinea. The aircraft come in low, so low the crews can see individual palm fronds bending in the prop wash. This is no longer a test or an experiment. This is habit. The squadron flies at altitudes that would have been suicidal a month earlier. Japanese guns open up immediately. The sound inside the cockpit is a physical thing. Impacts slam into the fuselage in rapid succession, a series of violent knocks that vibrate through Hale's boots and up his legs. Each hit is followed by the same thought, automatic now. Hold. The steel holds. Morales is shouting from the rear, calling out directions, firing short bursts. A tracer streaks past his head and smashes into the plate beneath him. The round splinters, fragments skittering away like sparks off an anvil. Still good, he yells. Still good. To Hale's left, Morrison's aircraft takes a hit on the wing root. Smoke blooms. He pulls away, losing altitude. Blue 4 is hit. Morrison says, voice tight but controlled. Controls sluggish. Hale watches him limp toward the sea. Then another burst reaches out. Morrison's aircraft shudders, but it does not break apart. The added armor has shifted weight and balance, but it has also shifted fate. He makes the water and ditches cleanly. The crew climbs out. They are alive. Back at Dobadura, the colonel reads the after-action reports in a quiet room that smells of paper and damp canvas. There are no adjectives this time. Just times, angles, locations of impact. A line catches his eye. Multiple hits in previously fatal zone. Crew uninjured. He underlines it. 2 days later, a formal directive arrives from higher headquarters. It does not mention Carter by name. It does not apologize. It uses careful language. Field expedient armor installations are authorized pending further evaluation. The phrase spreads faster than any order he has ever signed. Engineers arrive with calipers and notebooks. They measure Carter's plates. They weigh them. They shake their heads at the welding, then quietly copy the placement. Carter watches them work, arms folded. He does not gloat. He does not speak. He has already moved on to improving the design, trimming weight, angling edges. The laughter is gone completely now. In its place is something else. Respect, mixed with a quiet anger. Anger that it took dead men to prove what experience already knew. On May 11th, the squadron flies its hardest mission yet. A daylight strike against a reinforced target. Losses are expected. They always are. The guns are thicker this time. The sky ahead looks solid with fire. One aircraft without armor is hit first. It vanishes in a flash and a column of smoke. The others fly on. When they return, every armored aircraft makes it back. Some are barely flyable. One lands with a wheel blown off. Another skids to a stop on its belly, sparks spraying. The crews climb out, shaken, bleeding, alive. That night, the mess is quiet. No music. No jokes. Just men eating and thinking. Morales breaks the silence. They laughed at that steel. Hale nods. They laughed at us for flying with it. Morrison lifts his cup. They are not laughing anymore. By mid-May, similar modifications appear across the theater. Different shapes. Different scrap. Same idea. Protect where men actually get hit, not where charts say they should. Somewhere far away, factory armor designs are being reconsidered. Diagrams redrawn. Test results reinterpreted. But here, in the mud and rain of New Guinea, the truth has already been learned. Steel does not need to be pretty. It needs to be in the right place. And in the quiet hours before dawn, Carter is back under another aircraft, torch hissing, adding one more plate, one more chance. The men who stopped dying. May 21st, 1943. Dobadura Airstrip, New Guinea. The rain comes down in sheets, flattening the dust and turning the field into a mirror of puddles and oil slicks. Hale stands under the wing of his aircraft, helmet tucked under his arm, watching Carter work on another bomber. The torch throws a harsh blue light against the darkness, illuminating faces that look older than they did a month ago. Loss reports are posted every morning now. Men study them the way farmers study weather charts. Not with hope, with calculation. And the calculations have changed. Since the field armor spread through the squadron, the numbers have shifted in a way no one can ignore. Crews who would have been written off as missing in action are walking back from their aircraft. Gunners who once flew with resignation now fly with concentration. The Japanese gunners have not gotten worse. If anything, they are better. The difference is that the bullets are being caught. Hale remembers how it felt before. The sense of exposure. The knowledge that a single well-placed round could end everything. That feeling has not vanished, but it has narrowed. The danger now has edges. On May 23rd, a replacement pilot arrives fresh from training. Second Lieutenant Alan Brooks. His hands are steady, his face unlined. He runs his fingers over the armor plates during pre-flight, curiosity plain on his face. "Sir," he asks Hale, "is this regulation?" Hale thinks of Finch, of Carter, of the chalkboard with names crossed out. "It is survival," he says. Brooks flies his first mission that afternoon. Over the target, his aircraft takes a hit directly under the cockpit. The sound is loud enough to hear over the engines. When he lands, Brooks climbs down the ladder and sits on the ground, laughing and shaking at the same time. "I felt it stop," he says. "I actually felt it stop." Stories like his spread. They reach units that have never met Carter or Finch. They reach men who will never know the names of the ones who died before the plates were welded on. Higher command takes notice. Briefings begin to include the modification as a talking point. Engineers grumble, less openly now. Some even admit, quietly, that the original models did not account for the reality of low-level combat. Finch changes too. He no longer keeps his distance from the maintenance line. One evening, Hale sees him standing beside Carter, asking questions, listening. "You were right," Finch says at last. Carter shrugs. The bullets were. By June, factory-produced kits arrive. Clean, stamped, uniform. They are better balanced, better finished. They owe everything to a solution born in mud and scrap. The first time one of the new kits stops around, no one cheers. They have seen this before. They know what matters. The squadron flies on. Mission after mission. The fear never leaves, but it no longer owns them. In the quiet between operations, men talk about home, about what they will do if they make it back. These conversations had nearly vanished earlier in the year. Now they return. Hale writes a letter he never thought he would. He tells his wife about the rain, about the jungle, about the sound of bullets hitting steel. He does not mention how close he came to not writing at all. On June 8th, a Japanese round finds a gap between plates and kills a man. The loss hits hard. The armor was never magic. It was a chance, not a shield. But even in grief, the men understand the difference. One death instead of 4. One aircraft lost instead of a squadron. Carter adds another plate the next day. He angles it differently this time. War is adaptation, learned the hard way. And in this corner of it, crude steel and stubborn experience have stopped the dying from being routine. When command finally caught up. June 18, 1943. Port Moresby, New Guinea. The conference room smells of sweat, wet canvas, and cigarette smoke. Maps are tacked to the walls, edges curled by humidity. A group of officers stand around a table scattered with combat reports, fragments of armor plate, and photographs taken on the flight line. One of the fragments is unmistakable. A slab of uneven steel with a flattened bullet welded into it. A brigadier general taps it with his knuckle. "This stopped a 20 mm. "Yes, sir," Finch replies. His voice is calm now. Certain. At close range. There is a murmur around the table. Engineers leaf through documents. One shakes his head, not in disbelief anymore, but in reluctant acceptance. The original survivability models were based on altitude, the engineer says. On interception, not this kind of low-level work. The general looks up. Then the models were wrong. Orders follow. Not shouted. Not dramatic. Typed and stamped and circulated. All A-20 units in the theater are authorized to install supplemental armor based on the Dobodura pattern. Materials may be locally sourced. Weight limits adjusted. The language is dry. The effect is not. Back at Dobodura, Carter reads the order twice. Then he folds it carefully and puts it in his pocket. He does not smile. The next weeks are a blur of welding, drilling, and improvisation. Other units send men to watch and learn. Questions are asked. Measurements taken. The field armor evolves, refined by hands that know where rounds actually come from. Hale notices the difference in the air. The way crews move with purpose instead of dread. The way briefings focus on targets, not odds of survival. On July 2nd, the squadron escorts a formation deeper inland than ever before. The Japanese throw everything they have at them. Guns, fighters, desperation. 3 aircraft are hit hard. All 3 return. One lands with so many dents in the armor that it looks hammered by giants. The crew steps out unhurt. A ground crewman runs a hand over the plate and whistles. "That's ugly," he says. Hale nods. "It is beautiful." Word of the field armor reaches other theaters. Africa, Italy. Stories change in the telling, but the core remains. Men survived because someone ignored laughter and listened to reality. Carter receives a medal he does not wear. He pins it to a beam in the maintenance shack instead. "Belongs to them," he says, gesturing at the aircraft. As summer wears on, losses continue. War never stops killing, but it no longer kills carelessly here. The squadron's reputation changes. They are no longer known for high losses. They are known for coming back shot up and still flying. And that, more than any citation, is proof. The steel that changed the math. August 9th, 1943. Dawn over the Huon Gulf, New Guinea. The light comes in low and pale, turning the water to dull silver. Hale sits in the cockpit before engines start, helmet resting on his knee. He listens to the quiet. Not peace, just the absence of motion before another day of work. The aircraft around him are scarred now. No 2 look alike. Each carries its own version of Carter's idea. Plates layered, angled, patched again where older plates were torn or cracked. They look crude, improvised, honest. Morales climbs in behind him and knocks twice on the armor under his seat. A habit now, not superstition. A reminder. "Still there," Morales says. Hale nods. "That's all we need." They take off into the rising heat. Another strike. Another run through fire that will be recorded later as coordinates and times. In the air, it is noise and violence and instinct. Hale feels 2 hits on the approach. One on the climb out. Each time the same blunt impact. Each time the aircraft keeps flying. When they land, Hale shuts down the engines and just sits for a moment. He realizes something then. He is no longer counting missions survived. He is counting missions left. On the edge of the field, Carter watches the aircraft roll in. His hair is more gray now. His hand shakes slightly when he lights a cigarette. He has welded armor onto dozens of planes. He has saved men he will never meet. A young crew chief approaches him. "They say this is going into the manuals," he says. "Your design." Carter exhales smoke. "It was never mine. But it started here." Carter looks out at the line of aircraft, at the men climbing down, alive, talking, laughing in that quiet, exhausted way that only comes after surviving something meant to kill you. "Then let them remember the place," he says. By late 1943, standardized armor kits roll off factory lines already shaped by what Carter learned in the mud. Engineers run tests that confirm what combat already proved. Protection placed where men actually die saves lives. Weight be damned. In reports and histories, the story becomes clean. A lesson learned. A modification adopted. What is left out are the early days. The laughter. The looks. The names crossed off chalkboards before anyone admitted the problem. Hale flies his last mission that year in November. When he climbs out for the final time, he rests a hand on the battered steel beneath his cockpit. It is dented, pitted, ugly. It is the reason he will go home. Long after the war, the aircraft are scrapped. The plates cut away and melted down. The paperwork fades. But for one squadron, in one stretch of jungle sky, crude field armor changed the math. Not perfectly. Not completely. Enough.